And since 1984, fundamentalists have gained greater control in the SBC. They passed resolutions against women's ordination. They believe that because Eve was the first to eat the fruit, this led to the humans' expulsion from Eden. They believe God compels all women to submit to men. Baptist associations will disfellowship any church that ordains or calls a woman as a pastor. Fundamentalists in 1993 appointed a president of the Southern Seminary who basically forced a woman to resign in the next year because she supported women in ministry. Southern Baptists like to use the terms gracious submission to compel women to be beneath men. And I'm not kink shaming. If you're into the whole dom sub thing, that's fine. As long as you are 18, you communicate, you set boundaries, and do what you want to do, that's fine. If you expect all women in a religion to be secondary just because they don't have a certain anatomy, you're creating a toxic dynamic. And if it's not toxic, you hit the jackpot. Anytime white, cis, heterosexual men are in charge, you will find abuse. That's not to say that when women are in charge, abuse doesn't happen, because it does. But you'll see a magnitude more when these kind of men are in charge. Religion always wants to control, dominate, kill, and destroy women. They can't let women be equal. They can't let women be partners. Marriage is supposed to be a partnership. Mutual, and I don't even like using the word submission. I would say mutual deference, where you can give and take. If one person has the final say, you're not equal. And it's not just in church, even though they teach purity culture, where women are the temptress and men are the unsuspecting victim. When you have a sexist dynamic in church, you are going to get victim blaming, shaming, guilting, ostracism. You are setting up an environment where women are not safe to report misconduct. Because if you're supposed to submit to men, where in the Bible does it say you can confront and basically report on men? I don't remember a passage. If you're a part of a religion that believes it is a gross sin to hear a woman speak, you're not equal. Christians can say men and women are equal all they want, but when you read the Bible, you'll find out they're not. The only time men and women are equal in the Bible is when they're in the process of heaven. If men and women are not in heaven, they're not equal. You can't say that men and women are equal, but men will never lower themselves to do womanly things, even though there's no such thing as womanly things. You can't call men and women equal when men dominate women. When men are 3 times more likely to commit misconduct against women due to the hierarchy. If you've ever seen the diagram of an umbrella, where God's on top, then men, then women underneath, and then children. When you have a hierarchy that places people who are physically stronger, intellectually superior, because they are allowed and supported to having education, you are creating a dynamic that you are flipping a coin each time if it's going to be a toxic environment. What is so terrifying about having equal partnership in marriage? Why can't men and women be equal? Where no one has the final say, where you both come to a conclusion together. Both people should be living the give and take law, where sometimes you get what you want, sometimes you have to let the other person get what they want. That's how relationships work. And if somebody is always in charge, there's a power imbalance. You can't have healthy consent without there being equality. If somebody is over you, if someone has more authority than you do, there's a power imbalance. You should not be having a relationship with someone who has a power imbalance. If someone has dramatically more life experience than you, you have a power imbalance. Now, the power imbalance doesn't always have to be a negative, bad thing. Personally, I don't think it's okay for two people with such different experiences, education, and background to be in an intimate relationship, because that is a very ripe ground for misconduct. And this dynamic, if you ask people, where do you find the most abuse? They're going to say the home, any form of academic environment, or a religious environment. Why? Because power-hungry, narcissists, abusive, toxic people are always attracted to places where they have access to victims, they have access to authority, power, platform, and the church is ripe for people who will cover it up, explain it away, victim blame, and gaslight. There is no better place to abuse people than church, because you have a built-in structure of people who will hide it for you. And it spills over into the secular environment. Women make 18 cents less than white men do on the dollar per hour. Women can't drink without that little voice in their head, is being drunk and incapacitated going to put me in harm's way? Women try not to smile at strange men because men kill women for rejecting them. Women walking or jogging alone are always thinking, what happens if a man harms me? And just when a woman thinks she's safe, she has to go home, which is, according to statistics, the most dangerous place to be. In this country alone, men kill intimate female partners every 10 minutes. Because the patriarchy protects men. The patriarchy is like a human resources agent. They work for the business. They're not there to help you. They're basically PR control. And that's what church is. No matter what a man does, he will always get a free pass, another platform, forgiveness, and exoneration. While a female victim will never receive the closure she deserves. And if she's blessed enough where he is convicted of a crime, they blame her for it, even though most of these victims were under the age of 18. Religious men love being in charge until they have to take accountability. And then you were the one who was orchestrating everything. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of interesting, non-toxic religious people out there, specifically men. But the more extreme fundamentalist Calvinistic churches in Christianity draw the worst types of people. And I grew up in a lot of these churches where there was abuse. There was negligence, divorce. When a hierarchy doesn't like women having independence, education, advises them not to divorce a piece of crap spouse, it should not take someone beating someone up to give them the right to leave. If you don't feel safe, if your spouse or partner goes out of their way to make your life a living hell, you don't need a biblical reason to leave. Even though leaving is the most dangerous time for people in misconduct or in situations that could be extremely dangerous. Every married woman I ever met in the Baptist churches that I grew up in were miserable. Their spouse cheated, lied, narcissistic behavior, complete disengagement. And it's very true. Straight, heterosexual, cis women have the least satisfaction when it comes to relationships because of the sexist dynamic. The people with the highest satisfaction in relationships are not heterosexual and they're not traditional people. And it's very telling. When the biggest Protestant denominations forbid women from being in equal positions with men, they do retribution against women who speak up. They support groups that legislate abortion, anti-abortion. They cause the deaths of many people of color, hate speech against the queer community. These are the kind of groups we now know as hate groups. The Westboro Church, hate group. Any group that discriminates against people in any way, including gender, is a hate group. Luckily, I left those kind of churches before I even knew how bad they were. And we'll talk about purity culture in another video. But when there is not equal accountability, where women have to be responsible for everybody, instead of everyone being responsible for themselves, you got a problem. And the church, especially Southern Baptist fundamentalism, they haven't really changed much. It's all about women supporting men. But if men had to support women in the way women are required to, you would be waiting a long time. Because if women aren't affectionate enough, men blame them when they cheat. If women required the same amount of interaction, time, and sex that men require, they're still shamed for being too needy. And there's no legitimate reason why women can't be in positions of senior leadership. The only reason men don't want women in charge is because of heterosexual white privilege. An independent woman is a threat. And it doesn't matter if Christians say men and women are equal. When you have verses in the book that symbolizes your religion, that say that it is a grievous thing to hear a woman speak, women should be silent, women should be in subjection, that's not equality. That's ownership. And when your book lumps women in with animals, you're not equal. You're kidding yourself.